Hello, 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 hello. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Welcome. Welcome to this live session with me this evening. Welcome, 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 welcome. A big good evening to you all. Please let me know that you are here by dropping a comment as you join. Let me know that you are here by dropping a comment as you join, as we kick it off. Let me know that you are here as you join so that we can kick this off. Live session with me this evening. All right. So, our conversation this evening, my conversation this evening is around the idea of how to 10x your life, business and career with leadership. How does leadership help a person to 10x their life? And the idea of the word 10x, all right? So the word 10x, um, when we say the word 10x, we are speaking about a multiplier effect, that helps, that leverage, that's that multiplier. 10x means you are improving all round everything that has to do with your life, business, and career. You are improving all around when it comes to everything that has to do with your life, business, and career. And that is, the fundamental idea of what it means to 10x your life. 10x it means growth. At the core of 10x, the word means growth in your life, in your business, and in your career. 10x means growth. 10x means growth at the core of your life, your business, or your career. 10x means growth. All right. So, because in the end, 10x means growth. All right. So, it's also important that, we define, it's also important that we define leadership. So, leadership, leadership is to me the strongest multiplier of human potential. Leadership is the strongest multiplier of human potential. It's in so many ways. Leadership is the strongest multiplier of human potential. It's the strongest multiplier of human potential. Also, leadership is the greatest investment in terms of its compounding effect. I always say that nothing else has. Nathaniel, I see you. Thanks for joining. Thanks for joining, Nathaniel. Thank you so much for joining. Nothing else has that multiplier effect like leadership, right? And it's compound. It's the greatest investment in terms of when a person needs, how a person changes their life, how a person develops, how a person grows, sort of like into the best version of themselves. Leadership is the biggest investments in that sense, where you learn skills and you learn tools, you develop ideas, concepts that structures your life, puts you in the best position to succeed in every context. All right, leadership is the skill that shapes how you think, how you act, how you influence others, and how you rise. Right, leadership is fundamentally the capacity to influence first yourself and then subsequently others to activate significant results. Leadership Leadership is like John Maxwell said, leadership is everything. Everything rises and falls on leadership, right? So what is advantage? Because the core of this live session is leadership, is the leadership advantage. For those who are part of the leadership advantage conference, you will find a lot of this conversation was part of what we're discussing. So an advantage is anything that elevates you above average effort and yields superior results. Leadership is anything that elevates you above average effort and yields superior results. Your advantage lies, right, in terms of your leadership advantage lies in the compounding benefits of developing your leadership. Your advantage lies in the compounding benefits of developing your leadership. So I'm going to speak quickly on four very basic ideas before we get into some of the things that we're going to mention this evening. I'm going to speak on paradigms and perspective, right? Because a lot of people's perspective, they hold it to be true, but they cannot really verify the source of that perspective. A lot of people's perspective, they hold it to be true. They can say that this is their perspective about life, this is their perspective about marriage, this is their perspective about business, it's their perspective about parenting, it's their perspective about. So a lot of people hold perspective to be true. I always say that if you cannot verify or if you cannot identify the source of your perspective, or at least the shaping, how did you come about what you are defining as a perspective? If you cannot really establish it, then you don't really have a perspective. You are carrying another person's idea in your head. Now, of course, we are all products of multiple idea frames in terms of our different experiences, in terms of how people interact with us and how we have interacted. We are a total sum of our learning, etc. So a person's perspective, whilst it can be true to that person, there must be, because perspective can be formed by just the vantage point that you are seeing from. The famous graphics that was I think was popular at the time was when a person is looking at the letter, the word nine, and the person is looking at the word six, and because they were looking at it from two different directions, right, they were seeing different things, and they can argue and defend that perspective just based off the idea that they are seeing it from two different perspectives, even if it's the same thing, two different vantage points, two different angle, two different experiences, two different sides, and they can argue and debate and disagree and even dismantle organizations just on the premise of a perspective. And I say that the perspective is too weak of a premise to base your thinking and to base your pursuit upon. All right. So the same thing with paradigms. The paradigms are like our map. They are like the map with which we navigate the world, and they are a result. Your paradigms and your perspective are a result of your context, your upbringing, your education quality, the kind of family you grew up in, what social class you belong to, will all shape your paradigm and will all shape your perspective. The paradigm and the perspective of a person who is born into some type of poverty or some type of poverty experience will always be different in experience to those who are born into some type of prosperous experience, prosperous context. Now, does that mean that there is no hope for anybody outside of the context to which they are born into? Does that mean there's no hope for anybody? Like, as once you are born into a context, that is it. That will define forever who you can be or who you are. No, right? Because regardless of the context in which you are born, there is something in our existence that provides the level playing starting point in terms of it provides a level playing field for everybody to start from. Now, advantage can be accrued to a person over a period of time because a person who develops his leadership, for instance, has an advantage. A person who is born into some type of prosperity has an advantage. A person who is born into a healthy environment also has an advantage, right? But at the starting point, at the beginning point of practically how we kick things off in the pursuit of a thing, right? Principles are what produces or provides for us a level playing field. Principles are what provides for us a level playing field. Right? So you cannot just base your life on a perspective that came from how you were brought up, how you grew up, and things like that. You must base your life on the principles that govern possibilities in that area. All right. So you have to grow your perspective and paradigm into like solid principles. You have to allow principles govern your perspective and your paradigm, and then that will expand the level of possibilities that will exist in your life. You have to allow principles govern your paradigms and your perspective, because that then shapes and broadens the horizons of the possibilities in your life. Because if the total sum of the possibilities in our life are limited to our upbringing, our background, the kind of education we have, if that is the limit of the possibilities in our life, then this world will be an unfair place to live in, much more than it is today. Because it means the person who was born into some type of difficult circumstance has no hope and has no possibilities. And what life has taught over and over and over again is that there is hope for any person who is able to tap into a deeper sense of the world that comes from an understanding of principles. And the good thing about this thing is you don't even have to be educated per se in the idea of it. A person can teach you, somebody can introduce you, somebody can mentor you into that path where you begin to become principle focused and you rise above the limits, or in some sense, the bandwidths of your principles, of your perspective and your paradigm that are shaped by your context, by your upbringing, by your childhood, etc. All right. So principles broaden what we can define as possibilities. It is principles that broaden all that we can define as possibilities. It is principles that broadens all that we can define as in terms of possibilities, not just our paradigms or even the perspective that we hold. Because you can debate, your perspective can change. Your perspective can change, and your perspective can be fleeting. It can be based on something that is trendy. It has no long term. It has no long term base upon which you can build a life of success and a life of progress. All right. So your paradigms and your perspective must be shaped by principles. It is those principles that shape your paradigm and perspective that then produces and broadens the possibilities in your life. Principles principles provide for us a level playing field. There's nothing worthwhile on this earth that is not. In fact, every aspect of our life are governed by laws and principles. There are principles of success. There are principles of play. There are principles of connection. There are principles of value. Everything that is worthwhile in our life at any given time, they are all shaped by principles. There are laws that govern success. There are laws that govern prosperity. Principles provide a level playing field. I see you, Austin. Thanks for joining. I see you, Maria. Thanks for joining. Thanks so much for joining. So principles, principles provide they provide for us a level playing field. Principles makes success and progress predictable. Principles make success and progress predictable. They make them predictable to a certain degree. Principles make success and progress predictable. It is principles that shape possibilities in the sense that it governs the rules of engagement in that field. There are laws, there are laws and principles that you must learn to swim. It means whether you are wealthy, whether you are rich, whether you are poor, whether you are fat, whether you are slim, whether you are black, whether you are white, it doesn't matter. If you get into the pool, there are principles that shape it. Those principles do not respect your background, they don't respect your race, your color, your height, your size, right? If you understand the principles and laws that shape success in any area, you will find that success. That is what principles offers us. And a lot of times, a lot of persons walk around with a lot of assumption, with a lot of perspective because you can have a scarcity perspective, which is called a scarcity mindset, right? You can have a terrible mindset, a terrible perspective, a terrible paradigm, weak paradigm around the things that make for your everyday peace and your everyday joy. I always say this in a lot of times with jovially. There are people who never understood the principles that govern. They are principles of love that governs possibilities in that space. And as long as you have no principle understanding of what of the demands, the educational demands of love, you would always fall into sort of that bad relational context as well. So it's important to understand these four ideas because um, they will shape sort of like your understanding of the things that we're going to begin to speak about. So it's important. So, what are the key pillars? Key leadership pillars that you must construct in a sense in your life to then serve as the leveraging platform upon which you can then shape your possibilities. Right? What are the principles for? What are the key leadership pillars? All right. Now, the first leadership pillar that I'd like to discuss is knowledge. Knowledge is a starting point of leadership. Leadership begins from knowledge. Knowledge and learning begins leadership. When you bring new information into your life, what it reveals primarily, or at least at first, it reveals all the gaps in your life that you are missing, all the things in your life that you're missing, right? So leadership by my understanding begins from knowledge. It begins from knowledge. It begins from knowledge. Leadership begins from knowledge. And the first layer of knowledge that leadership begins with is self-awareness, which in that definition, in this context, is knowledge of self, your identity, your values, your strength, your weakness, your patterns. That's the first level of knowledge that leadership begins from. Begins with self-awareness. How much knowledge about yourself do you have? How much knowledge about your patterns, your emotional patterns, your strengths, your weaknesses, right? Your values, your identity. And I will get to a much more broader conversation about identity, but your identity equals the total sum of roles that you play in this life, right? All this identity crisis thing comes from a miseducation and a misinformation that has gone on for generations about the idea of identity. Your identity is the total sum of roles that you play, nothing more, nothing less. Your identity equals the total sum of roles that you play in this life, nothing more, nothing less. All right. So what you want to do is that you want to make sure that you understand all of the roles that you play. You want to make sure that you understand all of the roles that you play, because your identity equals the total sum of roles that you play in your life. Your identity includes the total sum of roles that you play in your life, right? So you want to make sure that you are intentionally, you understand intentionally all the roles that you play. You understand intentionally all the roles that you play. All right. So the second layer of knowledge that kicks off leadership, your journey to leadership, is knowledge of the world that you are in. Knowledge of the world that you are in. You cannot play around with contextual knowledge in your field, in your academics, in your business, in your career. There's technical knowledge that is relevant in that of course shapes possibility in that space. So you have to be able to mix up the knowledge of yourself with the knowledge of the world in terms of the context that you are playing in. So if you are a medical doctor, you have domain knowledge in being a medical doctor. If you're a content creator, you have domain knowledge in being a content creator. So by the time you mix a high knowledge of yourself in terms of a high level self-awareness with high level situational awareness in the sense of the game that you are playing, or the business that you are doing or the industry that you work in. By the time you mix these two knowledge together, what it produces is the third level of knowledge that gives that births leaders. And that third level of knowledge is a high level agency in terms of responsibility. Because if you combine self-awareness with knowledge of the world, knowledge of your knowledge of systems, knowledge of institutions, knowledge of societies, knowledge of the business that you are playing in, the niche that you're playing in, by the time you combine this knowledge together, it produces high agency. And leadership at that level then begins. It begins from a very simple three-letter word. Leadership begins from I am responsible. The leadership begins from I am responsible. And it is easy to say that the only problem is before a person comes into a full high level agency, the person must have a clear understanding of principles. Then the person must have a high a healthy amount of self-awareness, a healthy amount of knowledge of how the world works. A lot of people do not know how the world works. It's why they walk around with hopes and dreams that are being dashed every day. A lot of people don't know how the world works. So by the time when you combine a high level self-awareness with high level, a healthy amount of knowledge of how the world works, knowledge of the space you're playing in, how it works. Are you a content? Are you in digital marketing? How does digital marketing work? Do you understand it? Do you know what it takes to achieve success in this world? Again, what it takes to achieve success as a Nigerian, because you can be doing a business and you are copying foreigners. Meanwhile, what it takes to achieve success in this world is you have to adjust that to a Nigerian. So you combine level one knowledge of self-awareness, level two knowledge of the world, knowledge of the context that you're in. When you combine those two knowledge properly over a period of time, what happens is you become a high agency person. And a high agency person is defined by these three words: I am responsible. Like Joseph says all the time, Joseph Don says all the time, he says, nobody's going to come to your house and save you. That level of acceptance of responsibility, that if anything will change now, I have to change it. If anything, if my life will improve, I have to improve it. If my business will get better, I have to improve it. That everything can be going south and everything can be getting broken, but I have to be solid. I am solid. That's coming to a point where you are able to say, I am on this earth is a high level agency that is produced by healthy self-awareness and a healthy knowledge of the world that you are playing in, not the world you wish to play in, where you are debating about evil and how evil is the world is evil. No, there's a world that we are going to live in the future. That world is not today. In today's world, we have to combat and negotiate our value in the midst of so many challenges. There's a world you want to live in, and there's a world you are living in. You must understand the difference and aggregate that difference in terms of the skills that you need to develop to achieve those results. So when you combine healthy level self-awareness with healthy level of knowledge, social awareness, what will happen is that you become a high agency person, being that is defined by those three words: I am responsible, I am change, I am solid. You become I am. You become in your own way I am. It means nothing changes until I change it. I take responsibility for my happiness. I take responsibility for my joy. I take responsibility for my peace. I take responsibility for my progress. At once a person gets into that point, his journey to leadership has kicked off without any hindrance. His journey to leadership has started. I am responsible is the journey to leadership. That is how you change your approach to everything. That is how leaders are born. Leaders are born in the intersection when they come into a place where they are able to say to themselves, I am responsible. I am. Leaders are born in the junction of I am. I am. All right. So for those who are joining, welcome, welcome, welcome. All right. So another thing I will talk about very quickly is also vision. It's also vision. Um, again, Vision is not a picture of a future that you capture so that you can future. Those things are nice to say. They are very catchy things people say. Vision is the picture of your future that you capture, and you can puncture so that you're not future. Those things are nice things to say. But there are many people who can define vision but cannot identify their own vision. There are so many people who can speak about vision but have no vision. That is how interesting the idea of vision is. Right? So, what is vision? By my own definition, in fact, you know what? Let me first talk about a few things around how vision emerges. How does a person come into their vision? How does a person discover vision? Or what are the things that have to come into, that has to play in, what are the interplay that must happen in a person's life where a person begins to become a visionary person? The person be able to see things not just the way they can be, not just the way they are, but the way they can be and the way they should be. A visionary sees things not just the way they are, but the way they can be, or the best version of what they can be, whether it's their life, whether it's their business, whether it's their career, whether it's their marriage, their kids, in any plane in which they play. A visionary sees things not just the way they are, but the way they can be. All right. So leadership, sorry, I said leadership. Vision begins from inspiration. Leadership, vision begins from inspiration. Vision begins from inspiration. Now, inspiration is not, it's not, does not, uh, does not be on its own, right? It's not self-generated. It's not, inspiration is not like time, or inspiration is not like, it means inspiration is curated. The quality of inspiration that you are experiencing right now is a curation. Now, the problem is that if that curation is by your experience, is limited to your experience, your upbringing, your environment, then the quality of that inspiration will be weak. Then the type of vision it produces will be weak. The quality of the inspiration becomes weakened by the source where it draws all of its nutrients and energy from. Then the quality of a person's vision will always be weak. Right, so what are the things that sponsor inspiration, right? Hope, for instance, is a very powerful sponsor of inspiration. Hope. Exposure sponsors inspiration. Dissatisfaction with status quo sponsors inspiration. Reflection, how a person's ability to look at things. Self-awareness also sponsors inspiration. A person's ability, because only a human being is able to look within himself and make changes. A lion does not, it's not like a lion doesn't want to shave. The lion would like to shave. The snake would like to stand upright and walk, but it is limited by the type of awareness in terms of what is possible in his life. It is limited to a one dimension, highest a two dimension. As creative as a bird is, it can build an intelligent looking nest, but it cannot build blocks. It cannot build a brick house, because it is a two-dimensional being in terms of what is possible. We humans we are the only one with a 3D view where we can rise and look within our life and make adjustments. Right? You can say I look unkept. A lion is unkept. That beard is not beard gang. A lion is unkept. But because it lacks the kind of awareness that it takes to sort of look at himself in the mirror, identify the possibilities in his life and make changes. Because he's unable to do that, this voice, because he's unable to do that, he's unable to make changes in his life, right? So all these things really support and sponsors inspiration. Then inspiration produces what we capture as visions in our life. All right. So vision is the combination of two things. Vision is a combination of a person's identity and the total sum of a person's possibility. All right. A person's identity is the unique marker that we all come with. Your voice, your passion, your predilections, right? How you are, what you are, the total sum of what you are, right? And then the total sum of the roles that you play. I always say that identity is about core roles and core values. Your identity is about core roles and core values. Now, your core roles are the total sum of roles that you play. As you are listening to me now, if you pick a pencil and a paper and you begin to list out all the human roles that you play, that is all you are. Number one, you are somebody's son or somebody's daughter. Number two, you are somebody's brother or somebody's sister. Number three, you're somebody's friend. Number four, you're somebody's cousin. Number five, you're somebody's, if you are married, somebody's husband. You are then, if you then begin to define your socioeconomic roles, you are a, if you are a student, you're a student. And those roles, now think about it in that sense. All of the activities of your life can be grouped into under one role or the other. All of the activities in your life can be grouped under a role. All of the activities in your life can be grouped under a role. All of the activities in your life can be grouped under a role. All of the activities. You are a real estate agent, it's a role. You are a mother, it's a role. You are a father, it's a role. You are a sister, it's a role. You are a friend, it's a role. You are a girlfriend or a boyfriend. It's not a real role, but it's a role people play, right? Yeah, that's a joke, but I mean, so all of the roles that you play, every single thing in your life, every single activity, whatever dominates your time, if we review your role classification, we can understand where you invest the highest time. All right. So your identity is about your core roles. It's about who you are. So we can then begin to define those roles. We can't get into that on this session, right? So we can then begin to define those roles. Do you understand what it means to be a son? Or you have just been assuming? Do you understand what it means to be a friend? Do you understand what it means to be a daughter? You have been a man all your life, and you have never read a book on what it means to be a man. It's why your role management is so terrible. You have been a woman all your life. You have never gotten proper education on how to be a woman. Just random ideas here and there. Nobody tells you what a man is, but they will tell you what a real man is. A real man is supposed to. If your definition of your role are all about the expectations of others, you will never be able to develop a vision. If the definition of your roles are all about the expectations of others, you will never be truly able to define your roles, to define your vision. All right. So as you are listening, you can take a piece of paper, you can pull out a book and write out what are the all the roles that I play. You can divide them into core roles and non-core roles. Your core roles are the things that you are always going to be. You are always going to be a man. I mean, you're always going to be a woman. You're always going to be somebody's son. You're always going to be somebody's daughter. You're always going to be somebody's, you define all those core roles that shape the fundamentals and the foundation of your life. And then you need to understand, how have I been at the highest level of possibility in terms of all the roles that I play, or have I just been winging it? The answer for most people is that they have been winging it. So all the roles that are your core roles that were supposed to lead you to the unknown roles that you are developing in terms of your vision, because your vision is a role that you will become. Because there are no heavy investment or heavy understanding in terms of the roles that you play, you are unable to actually tap into all of those resources that come from your known roles to help you define and identify your known roles, which is what a vision is. A vision is when you master your known roles, then you get into new roles where you begin to tap into sort of like your education and your learnings and your skills, and then you can begin to define the essence for yourself. It's a very straight line, at which part of the problem is that a lot of people are trying to develop a vision without having proper understanding of principles. They're trying to develop a vision and trying to know who they are without having a clear sense of self-awareness. Without being a high agency person, you might not be able to get all those things properly. And instead of crying about what your purpose is, whatever your hand find to do, do it. The problem is that a lot of people are trying to have the experience that is an exception to a few persons. They are not the rule of the game. The rule of the game is that most persons, and for the rest of us, we have to engage life by how life engages us. And whatever we find our hands to do, we do it with all our strength, with all our heart, with all our mind. Then we earn the right to come into a new level where we can begin to enter a new level of possibility. So the identity is about your core rules and your core values. What are your core values? Your core values will always be your inner meter. They are in a sense a type of map. They help you determine what you value, which is already in the name. They help you determine the things that you value and the things that are important to you, and the intangibles that helps you stay within your identity marker. All right. At the end of this call, I think I should be able to drop an ebook I created about what values are, what values should not be, and how to discover that. So, uh, if you have listened to this point, you can comment that you would like the ebook for identifying your values, and I'm going to send that to you. All right. So let's get into. I think we can take one more thing. I don't want to be go past an hour. I think we can take one more thing. Okay, let's talk about time management. All right. So this is what makes a person a leader: knowledge, vision, and management of time. Of course, and communication, discipline. Those are all things we can discuss. But for the purpose of this and what for the things I can touch, we will just stay on this, right? So you cannot, we can really cannot. One of the time management is one of the most contradictory statement because we really cannot manage time. We really cannot manage time. We cannot manage time, right? Time is fixed. You cannot say because you did something, then your 24 hours is going to increase, because the whole premise of management is that a person is able to use resources, sort of like multiply the usage of a resource by how they organize and prioritize their life. Time cannot be managed. Can only be converted. Time cannot be managed. Time cannot be managed. Time can only be converted. Time cannot be managed. It can only be converted. All right. So there's 24. You cannot pause. You cannot speed up. You cannot store it, which are all pillars of management. You can't pause time. You can't speed it up. You can't store it. You can't reserve time. By the end of today is gone. Whatever you didn't do, whatever you did, you cannot say, yeah, and I didn't use my time. I want to save it. Some of us, we save data, we put on off our data. You cannot put on off your life data, your time data. You say, I want to reserve my time. I didn't finish it. I want to reserve it for tomorrow. No, at the end of today, it's done, because it is not a multipliable asset. It's not a multipliable thing. It cannot be stored. It cannot be paused. It cannot be sped up. It cannot really actually be wasted in that sense. You can waste your time, which means you can waste your life, but time is not being wasted. Right? So when we talk about time management, we're actually talking about life management. All right. Your choices, your focus, your priorities. What you actually manage are your choices, your focus, your priorities, your energy, and your actions. You don't manage time. All right. So time management at the core is a myth. The real thing is self-management or life management, or at least energy management. How you deploy your energy, how you deploy your actions, the choices that you make, your priorities are the things that you can manage. All right. One of the most important time management, or at least life management principles, they are attributed to Stephen Covey. So we're not going to invent any other thing. We're just going to use that because I think it's a very, 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 very powerful life management principle to understand in terms of how you set goals, how you plan, how you do scheduling and things like that. All right. So Dr. Covey has a time quadrant that is divided into four. All right, in terms of what is urgent. Quadrant one is urgent and important. Quadrant three is important but not urgent. Quadrant three is urgent but not important. Quadrant four is not urgent, not important. So there are things that are urgent and important. If you live your life in urgency and importance. It means everything, almost everything about your life is in crisis. If you live your life in terms of only what is important and what is urgent, it means you are in crisis. Everything that you are in crisis, you are in deadline. Everything about you is deadline or crisis or things don't spoil. Things don't spoil already. If you live your life always within the urgent and important, it means that you have forgotten your wife's birthday, so you are hurrying to meet up, or you have forgotten your husband's birthday. I hope you didn't forget my birthday. You have forgotten your husband's birthday, so you are trying to meet up. You have forgotten your wife's birthday, you're trying to meet up, or because you did not do what you're supposed to do when they gave you a job. Now you are in a sprint, you are in a deadline, trying to catch up and trying to meet up. It does not work that way. All right. People who live in quadrant one, who are always, there's always a sense of urgency about everything in their life, and there's always everything is important or urgent to them, is because they are not managing their life in the right way. Quadrant three is urgent and not important. To me, this thing that just these ones are distracting activities. It is urgent, but it's not important. Like every time your phone rings, you can be in the kitchen and you hear your phone ring in the sitting room. You can leave what you are doing in the kitchen and run to the sitting room to pick your phone, because there's always a sense of urgency, because you can miss the call. So that is how you sort of understand the things that are urgent, but they're not necessarily, not all call are important. You can be not a shade to them, but you can be doing something important and your phone will ring and you will get up and go and pick your phone and you'll hear, good evening, Mr. Joshua. I'm calling from GoTV or DSTV, whatever they are calling from. So you just imagine how frustrating you can be, because there's a sense of urgency to the call, but it doesn't mean it's always important. So if you live your life in the urgent but not important brackets, it means you are always doing things that are sort of like always have a sense of urgency but might not be important. Like hot gist. Hot gist have urgency. If somebody call you and say, "Oh man, you don't hear this gist," or you see a notification of a popular skit maker just became ex, gossip, very urgent but not important. Hot gist, very urgent but not important. See, it happens to the best of us, where you become a part of a conversation and you don't want to leave. Something is just, that conversation has just pinned you down. You don't want to leave. You don't want to walk away from that conversation. It's urgent, but it's not important. And we get trapped by this type of activities that have so much urgency but have no importance. It's like, if you don't do it now, you are going to die. And a lot of it are highly important. Quadrant four is not urgent, not important. Of course, this one is just a waste. They are not urgent, they are not important. And you can, not urgent, not important. You can always postpone, you can always delegate, you can always do all those type of things. The highest level in terms of time quadrants are the important and urgent. The things that are important but are not urgent are the things that gives you time to plan. Things like planning, things like having a vision, things like building your leadership, investing in yourself, reading a book, resting, leisure, pleasure, uh, scheduling. Those things are important but are not urgent. So a lot of people ignore them. They will rather be distracted by the things that are important. They rather be distracted by things that are not important but are urgent, or the things that are important but are urgent. If you are always in the important and urgent, you are always repairing. You are always trying to figure things out when the things are already almost going bad, or the things are already getting bad, or you are always in that on the edge. But once you are, if you stay within the important and not urgent space, you understand all the things that are important. It means you can plan. It means you can design your life. You can design your experiences. It means you can schedule. It means you have a vision. You have a plan. You are governed by the understanding of principles. So you are deploying your energy almost, because you understand you understand all the roles that your life, all the core roles that you play. You understand all that, so you are able to navigate and deploy and organize yourself only around the things that are important. To me, I think this is one of the best works out there in terms of how to understand life management. All right. So the things that you can schedule, you can plan for, all these things. Planning, people will not They will not. They will. They are people are too busy to plan. They are too busy to design. Too busy to read. Too busy to exercise. Too busy to. Too hungry to eat healthy. Too stressed up to rest. And then until they crash, and then they get into urgent and important. Once you don't rest, and then you fall sick, then rest becomes urgent and it becomes important. You are no longer resting. You are healing. All right. So those are very important things to understand in terms of how you manage your life in the context of time. How you manage your life in the context of time. All right. When you get into, all right, so how do you navigate setting goals, to-do list and things like that? If you truly understand all the things that are important in your life, and I would also like to go back to Dr. Covey's, teaching about this thing in terms of doing the first things first. You understand what is important, big picture important, and then you begin to zero down. The big picture important, then you begin to pull it down. You plan. In the midst of planning, you are outlining the things that are important. Okay, uh, what are the big rocks of your life? Once you understand your vision, you understand who you are, your identity. You know all the core roles. A lot of you, there are roles that are playing in your life that you have no business playing. It's an assumed role. You are playing a role that there's no definition, no economic contribution, no value, nothing. You are just playing the role. It gets you angry every time, but you go back to that same role all the time. You cannot be doing that and say you can manage time, because you are always going to move. You are never going to be able to define the roles that you play, understand them, deploy your time resource accordingly based on how they are important. You must be able to identify the things that are important to you. You must be able to identify the things that are important to you. So it is in identifying those things within that quote and true lifestyle, that's important things that are not urgent. In identifying those things, what happens is that you are able to identify your core, where you must deploy your highest level of time. You must be able to deploy your highest level of time in the things that are most important, and then you begin to. I always say, do hard things first, or at least do the things that you're good at first, so that you can be. So you deploy energy, your time, your resource into the things that are you are good at. Oh, will I have time to touch on some of these things? Will I have time to touch on some of these things? Okay, so let's talk about communication, and then we'll put an end to it. So the principle of the idea of communication is to transfer clarity, how you see things, and put it in other people's mind. All right, so that you are able to bring out, pursue the best possible outcome in the context of what you're communicating about. All right, if you leave a conversation and people don't understand what you're saying, you have not communicated, and you have to be able to understand that. All right, it's a principle of leadership. You cannot be in leader. You cannot have strong leadership and have terrible communication skills. Communication is a leadership skill. And right now, where content is king everywhere, communication is the life wire of almost everything. Can you stand in front of people? Can you address people? Can you say what's in your mind, even in a small group? Forget about addressing people. Can you say what is in your mind? All right. A lot of persons, a lot of persons lack even the right words. They don't know how to use words. They don't even know the right words to use. So I always say that communication is divided into two things: is the skill aspect and the security aspect. The skill aspect has to do with can you speak proper in the language? Can you speak the agreed language? Can you speak the agreed language? Because it's not just about English. If you're in Spain, can you speak Portuguese? Can you speak Spanish? Can you speak French? Can you speak the agreed language, the universal agreed language in the context that you are experiencing? All right. So language, do you understand the language of communication? Do you have personal clarity in your head? Do you understand the logic of communication in that context? Do you have the tact? Um, and then the security part then has to do with, do you have the competency, right? Especially when it comes to technical conversation. If we are discussing about medicine, do you have the knowledge block of medicine? That is what makes it confidence. I always say the people who are the people who can raise up their hand in a room to speak are not just people who are confident. If you don't have what to answer, you will not really raise up your hand. So competence precedes confidence. Competence precedes confidence in the conversation of communication. All right. So competence, do you have the things to say? I'm speaking live here now because I have something to say about leadership. I'm speaking about leadership. You can decide, you can have the confidence to discuss leadership, but you don't have the competence to discuss it. And then you will not be able to communicate. All right. So security, the skill are the two yin and yang of communication. Do you have the skill? Do you understand the language of your day? Do you have the clarity in your mind? Do you understand how to now verb agreement? Now verb agreement. Do you know the difference between and I am? Right? Do you have the right words? Or your contribution in open conversion is right? If you don't have the right words, you will really not be able. www. Austin, can you put in the comment section www.livingleadershipacademy.com? I would like you to visit livingleadershipacademy.com. Part of what we are doing at the Living Leadership Academy is teaching leadership skills that will help you 10x your life. Are you a career person? Are you a career person? Are you an entrepreneur? You are going to be learning from the basic leadership program kicks off in March of next year. But people have started paying. People have started paying. A lot of people have started paying, right? And there's a particular number of people for this first cohort, and then we are not going to be able to get people. So it's not a open-ended thing forever and ever. The first cohort kicks off in March 2026, right? You want to be a part of it. It's just 30,000 naira, and it's about 8 to 10 weeks of videos, of video courses, live sessions, community from some of the best minds are going to be facilitators, because I won't be teaching everything. I have a lot of my friends, Mr. Maman, Jago, a lot of people are going to come in coming up to teach their own specific skill set. All right, there's a financial management course where we teach on how to manage finance, savings and investment, how to raise funds. There is the entrepreneurship part where we discuss about what is entrepreneurship, digital entrepreneurship, on-site entrepreneurship. We'll discuss about systems and structure. We'll discuss about hiring. We'll discuss about culture formation for your business as an entrepreneur. We'll be also discussing for career people. We'll have a career course that covers getting your next job, your CV. We have non-exclusive partnership with hiring companies so that we become their employment pipeline for sound people who have leadership and soft skill training. All right. So there's so much work that we are currently doing. I want you to visit www.livingleadershipacademy.com and see all of what this the academy, what you will learn. You will learn principles of personal leadership, everything I've taught here, and much more. You will learn about personal leadership. You will learn about team leadership, communication, public speaking, presentation, goal setting, vision and vision analysis, how to discover your purpose, gaining clarity, self-confidence, discipline. We're going to be teaching everything that makes a person a leader, and how that leadership helps you 10x and experience growth and prosperity and progress in your life, in your career, and your business. Again, visit www.livingleadershipacademy.com. www.livingleadershipacademy.com. Look at everything. It's about 30,000 naira. You get access to video, you get the certificates when you're done. And we are putting together, it's just going to be like an immersive learning experience. right? And your life will never be the same. I guarantee it. Your life will never be the same, right? Um, Thank you so much for